Good evening. So this is Noel Gibbons from UK Foamsmith and Cosplay. So just before Christmas, we were sent a sample package from Tyges in their Flexipaint range to try out. They were changing the formula and new and updated, so they wanted us to try it out as we've used it lots of times before, so we wanted to see what the difference was. So I've been meaning to do it, but Christmas has been in the way, and that's a busy time for me in my main daytime job. And then we hit tier 4 and went into lockdown, so we're in this situation where I've got a bit of time on my hands. So finally I'm able to do some of the things I wanted to do. So, and part of that is actually being able to sample this. So I've got a helmet, just a little plaything that I was just had kicking around in the shed doing nothing whatsoever. So I thought, well, might as well use it for something good. So I've coated it in Flexipaint clear to seal the foam. So I used that first. So I heat sealed it before I did anything else. But for me, foam is quite absorbent. So just doing that on its own doesn't seem to be enough to really seal it for my liking. It ends up absorbing a lot of the product that you tend to use on it. Whether it's plastic dip or primer or whatever it is that you put straight onto the helmet, it tends to get absorbed significantly and needs extra coats in order to do that. So I started using clear as a way of sealing it, and I have to say, works brilliantly. It is as good as I used to use PVA. PVA I used to get 5 or 6 coats, maybe sometimes more, to get this kind of finish. This is 2 coats of clear. Difference is that PVA cracks. So when you flex it, it tended to get all crackly and sprinkly. So obviously anything you put over the top is going to have a similar effect. Obviously with anything, when you build it out of foam, you're looking to get it as flexible as possible. So from my perspective, the fact that I can, oops, there you go, just split that. So to get this as flexible as possible is the way to do it. So fix that after. So I want to sample what the black is actually like. It tells me that there is no primer required, so I can just literally put this straight on. So that's what I'm going to try. So here's the bottle, straight out of the box. I haven't really looked at it at this point. So it can be brushed or sprayed, and it's water based. So it can go through your airbrush, and it can be it's brush ready. So literally I should be able to just pull it from this, put it straight into my pot and paint straight on. So it says give it a good shake, so that's what we're doing. Alright. Standard soft paintbrush is what I tend to use if I'm doing large surface areas. You know, obviously if I'm doing more detailed work, I've got a whole range of smaller brushes right down to really fine details. But seems to be just doing this in one single colour. We're just going to do it over with one soft brush. It should minimise brush marks, so obviously we will soon find that out as we come to paint it. I'm also going to use a hairdryer to speed up the process of the drying so we get a better understanding of the finish. So without further ado, so let's just pour this straight into a pot and let's see what happens. Okay, so literally pour, less is more. You can always add more, can't take it away, and I don't like throwing paint down the sink if I can help it. So, starting off with that, nice thick consistency, not too thick, not too thin either, not too runny. So let's just dab the brush in. Let's begin the process. Let's see what happens. So the idea is that it minimises brush strokes because it goes on nice and thick in the first place. So I guess we'll find that out as we go. And generally I use Tyges for all of my purchases really. I use their full dip, I use their foam obviously, generally they're 100, which is what this is made out of, because it's just better all round, especially if you're putting in details such as engraving and stuff like that. So I tend to use them. Polyprops is a company that most people tend to use, but I find them expensive, and actually I haven't found their foam that good to work with myself. So I tried Tyges instead to see how they did with theirs, and I much preferred it. I found right from the bat, starting with the 65, that it just worked a lot better for me, especially when it came to painting and the paint finish. Okay, so I'm being uber careful on this, because I'm just keen to see how it works. So this is just your standard black, which for me, I'm looking for coverage and I'm looking for gloss, because even if you go into another paint afterwards, particularly at the moment with the Mandalorian, a lot of people are doing silvers and chromes and stuff like that. Black gloss base is very, very key to any kind of standard of finish that you end up with at the end. So it's very important to get a decent gloss finish. Problem is with using rattle cans and such like that, is that you end up with the rigidity of it, which to a degree, so that's that done. So I've done about 1/4 of a helmet in that. So let's add a little bit more. So that's 2 lots, so that's about that much, really isn't very much. I've gone through so far. It's going on easy enough. My big concern for these things is that if it dries out too quickly, then your brush tends to get very gummy, and that can really affect your overall finish as well. So now the clear, I tend to find, for the most part, quite self-leveling. You know, providing you're a bit careful about how you apply it, then you're really in a good position to actually get a nice smooth finish. I mean, I wouldn't like to put a mirror gloss over it, like a mirror chrome or something like that. Anything applied with a brush is likely to give you a bit of a headache in that way. But for the most part, we're looking for a fairly metal looking finish. Obviously, whether you choose metallic paint, it turns out whether it actually looks like a metal helmet or not. That depends on the finish of your helmet. So far so good. Let's just get the back part of it done. I haven't been very careful in the build of this. Like I say, it was just something kicking around in the shed that really, just for no real reason, but having built it and spent money on the foam and stuff like that, I'm very reluctant to throw anything away. So it's just kind of kicking around until I found a suitable use for it, either as a donor, which I sometimes do, is I tend to carve old helmet builds up and then use the internal. So I would use like the dome as an internal padding or something like that, something that's pre-curved, so you can slot that inside of another helmet, and boom, you know, you've got your internal padding already sorted out, so it just slots in nicely. Okay, so pretty much that's done the whole helmet. Certainly done a coat. So let's speed up the drying process. Okay, so that's dry. So that's very quick, drying even with a hairdryer, quicker than some acrylics. Normally I need to go a good 5 minutes extra on that to try and get everything right. It's not 100% dry in all the places where you get a bit more pooling on the ridges and stuff. So probably need to spend a couple more minutes on that one. But in terms of everything else, it's dry. So I call that a satin finish. It's not gloss, so I certainly wouldn't want to go chrome over that, so I don't think you get much reflection off the back of it. So let's give it another go. Let's give it a second coat, and let's see if we can see how it finishes with that. So it'd be quite interesting to see if the gloss actually improves. Right, let's give it a go. Let's try and second coat mainly on this front and top area, because I think that's going to give us the best understanding. So I'll try and do the front, this sort of section, so we can get a contrast. So I won't do the whole helmet with a second coat. what I'll do is I'll just do what is essentially a raised area. So I'll almost create that as a second finish. Okay. Need fractionally more, I think. Just running out, just not quite getting the colour I want, so I'm just going to add a little bit extra. Not a lot, almost there. So building up a second coat can often build up the brush marks as well, so this will be a bit of a test on that one as well, just to see whether it minimises brush marks. Like I say, you're never going to get 100% away from it because you're using a brush, so ultimately with that you tend to get brush marks. It's as simple as that. So second coat on. So I've left the kind of teeth area here and the back area without a second coat. So just to make sure, missed a bit there. That's still first coat essentially. Right, let's just double check that I've covered it all. Not wasting any paint. Okay. Right. definitely improved with the second coat. It's definitely, as you can see, this is just one coat, this is two. So there's definitely a lifting of the gloss and of the finish of it. So, I mean, I haven't been particularly careful with either my brush or my brushing. If I was really going to sort of try and take my time on it, then I think I'd get a really nice finish on that. So I think overall, I think there's been a definite lifting between the one and the two coats to definitely be able to create a contrast. It's more noticeable here and here between the two. So yeah, so I think all in all, as you can see here, where I was a bit thicker with the paint, you're getting far more gloss as you go. And unlike with the previous edition of this paint, there was a tacky sort of feel to the end of it. The idea is it's to grab the powder and such like and create more adherence. There isn't the same tacky sort of feel to this at all. It doesn't feel at all tacky. But apparently doesn't affect its ability to take powder and create a different finish. So overall, that is quite a nice sort of finish. So I'm going to let that dry completely naturally overnight, and then tomorrow I'm going to have a little go with some powder pigment that I bought a while back to see how that fares against the black, and see how it sort of, see what kind of tack it sort of edges to, and see how it connects and see how it stays. So we'll lift this helmet again in a video, which will go from this and then add I haven't decided what colour I can go. I've got silver, copper or gold. So I think we're doing a lot of silver right now, oversaturation of silver. So I might do gold or copper instead, just to really sort of show the finish and see how it looks overall. But in terms of the new and improved version, definitely is not as tacky as it was. I think the finish is a lot glossier than previously. I'd still say it's verging on the satin side, but there's definitely a lift. The more coats that you use, you can get to a glossier finish. Dries very quickly and largely self-leveling, although I wouldn't recommend that you just slap it on. I still think you need to take a little bit of time and care over the finish of your paint strokes. So overall, double thumbs up. Well done, guys. Definitely an improvement, and look forward to using it in the future. All right. UK Foamsmith and Cosplay signing off.